Welcome to the Responsible Parent Podcast, where overwhelmed families curious about naturally regulating their nervous system can find answers. I'm your host, Caylie, and in each episode, I'll cover a topic you've been wanting to understand more about and serve as a reminder for you that everything is cyclical and connected. Today, we have a professional organizer, founder of KMA Organizing, and a calmer of chaos. She learned at an early age that when our physical space is organized, we are more organized in our mental space as well. She works with clients to declutter and organize all areas of their homes and lives. Whether moving, reorganizing space, or feeling that there's too much stuff in your life, she helps you work through all of the tasks of letting go and reorganizing your space. Welcome to the Responsible Parent Podcast, Katy Annuli. And is
Thank
that
you
how
so much
you
for
say
having
your
me.
Okay.
Yes.
I was like, shoot, is it Annulli? Okay, good. I meant to ask you that beforehand. So your week is starting off well because you mentioned that it was your birthday yesterday.
Yes, it was.
Awesome. So happy late birthday. We're so happy to have you. How was your tea?
It was great.
You
I'm
like
still
it?
enjoying it.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Awesome. Yeah, there's some calmative herbs and then some kind of just down regulating herbs in there, but most of them are pretty common. There's chamomile and lemon balm and
Yeah,
but
it's delicious.
good. Yay. Did you put honey in it? Are you a
I
sweetener
didn't.
adder? No?
No.
Yay. Oh, I love that. Wonderful. We can jump right in. I absolutely love that your tagline is clear your space, calm your mind. This message has been ringing so clearly for me lately that, in fact, the reason I reached out to you was because I held a Facebook Live with my new free community for parents during January's new moon. And I felt called to share a calendar that I made with the group, which opened up a whole side conversation about how scheduling and organization is sorely needed amongst the mamas who were present. And they were looking for more tools. And then I remembered that I was following your business through being in containers with Krista Ritma. So I knew your
Mhm.
energy would be perfect already. But then seeing your tagline, I was sold. So I'd love for you to tell me a bit more about your journey to a clear space, calm mind mentality.
Yeah, well, I have struggled with anxiety since college. And so one of the ways that I'm able to calm my mind is to organize my space. So, like there's so much that we can't control in our lives, in our world. And so our environment is one thing that we can have control over. And I've just found that, organizing, like when I worked a 9 to 5 job, I would organize the storage cabinet in my office. And like, and when I was stressed out or rearranging, when I was little, I would like constantly rearrange my room because I needed to shift the energy, which I didn't realize that was what I was doing. That's what I was doing.
So interesting. I think I did
Yeah.
that too, but I didn't realize that until you just said it.
Wow. Yeah. So I took some organizing certification online about 10 years ago. And then I started working with clients when I still have my full time job. And 6 years ago, I quit my full time job and have been doing my business full time. So, and it really just the people that I end up working with, a lot of them have issues with focusing or completing tasks. And so it has become more and more apparent to me how helpful organization and structure can be in people's lives.
Absolutely. I love that. And I did see that you had mentioned on your profile that you've brought yoga practices in. So back in 2019, I became certified as a kids yoga teacher. And I found the most fascinating aspect of my training to be the information about the nervous system and better understand what's really unfolding and not only in our own brains, but on an electrical level with kids when they exhibit certain behaviors. So that sparked another intrigue in me. Can you chat about how you've integrated the lessons from yoga into your organizing business?
Yeah, well, I think just on an energetic level, the impact of moving things. So many people hold on to items because they hold sentimental value, but the sentiment may be extremely negative energy. So by having those in your house, it impacts the energy of your home. And also, having things, even if a sentimental item like brings positive energy, if it's stuffed away in a box, then you're never, if you have your grandmother's china and looking at it makes you really happy, but it's in a box in your basement, they haven't looked at in 5 years. Like there's, you're not getting those grandma vibes at all. So just, yeah, the energetic level. But then I also think like bringing in elements of saucha and like cleanliness in the body, cleanliness in the home, and just being able to work with those things with people and being able to explain, the clutter blocks energy from moving freely throughout your space. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I just experienced that on a deeper level this past fall, I guess. So I moved I moved last fall and then I moved this past fall. And so I only stayed at the last place for a year. And over that year span, I had collected way more stuff than I should have. And then we moved into this space and we really downsized. And it was a whole journey. I felt God calling me to downsize. And I was like, why? I don't want to. And then like I listened and everything's working out the way it should. However, during that process, I really implemented some of the Marie Kondo's methods and I
Hmm.
reread her book. I got it back here right now. What is it? The life changing magic of tidying up as I was packing because I was like, okay, I'm going to do this again as I'm packing. And one of the things I found interesting is once I got here to this new place, there were still things that I needed to shed and I could like feel it in my body. And one of those things was this random, it's not random, but this clear tub was only like this big and this deep of jewelry items from deceased loved ones. I've been holding on to this for 15 plus years, and it wasn't very organized. And there was like another jewelry organizer in it that had already been dropped and shattered and was in pieces. It was just, I didn't want to throw it away because my grandma gave it to me. It was this whole
Hmm.
sentimental thing. And it literally, for me, I think it was just time. And then just the energy work that I've been doing over the past 4 years, where finally I looked at it and I was like, I'm never going to wear this puka necklace from my dad in the early 2000s or these Oakley glasses with his bite
Right.
marks on them. Let's be honest, and I'm never going to wear this god awful piece of jewelry from my grandma, and I don't really think her energy was carried in it. I did keep a couple of things, but those are things that I actually wear that mean
Hmm.
something to me. And I had a sweatshirt from my dad even, and I was like, you know what? It's just time. It's just time and so I just brought it all and most of it I threw away, but then some of it I donated if it was appropriate enough to donate. And that was such a healing experience for me because I didn't miss it. I didn't need it anymore. I cried as I was going through it, but then I was like, this clears up my space so much more. I don't have to worry about where to put this, like
Right.
clutter of
And I think,
junk that carries weird energy.
yeah, and a lot of people get so caught up on like, my grandma would be so upset if I got rid of this necklace. And it's like, no, she probably would want you to keep the things that you like and that
Yeah.
you will actually wear
Yeah.
than to have every single piece of jewelry that she gave you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All the
And I
time.
think like honestly, breathing comes in a lot too, which is like interesting, like in relation to yoga and organization, just because like people get so overwhelmed. So I often find myself doing like breathing exercises with people because it can bring up so many emotions. And obviously, our breath is so powerful to release that. So I just wanted to mention that too.
Wow, that's so interesting. I feel like any of our listeners, if they were expecting organization tips and hacks, of course, but they're probably like, wait a minute, this is a different level. This woman
Well,
breathing with people, I love it.
Well, there's so many organizers that are like really, type A, like just want you to get rid of everything. And I'm much more focused on creating custom systems for people that they'll actually stick to. And a lot of times there is a lot of emotion behind why people hold on to things. So I've like cried on the floor with people. Like, like I'm really emotional myself. And so people feel comfortable opening up and talking to me about the different issues that are or the challenges they're having from preventing them to being organized or getting organized. And so I think it's really important to have that openness and vulnerability with people because it makes them feel comfortable. Yeah. So,
Thank you for sharing that. It's such a inviting experience compared to people who are afraid to let things go, right? So,
right.
okay, speaking of getting comfortable, I have my little Huga book back here displayed for our call because it's winter here in the Northern Hemisphere. And in my understanding of comfort, it has changed so dramatically in my 30s. I used to think that like more is better, right? Like more soft rugs, more candles, and. But I've discovered I'm at true peace when I have a truly decluttered space and a few like purposeful items that evoke that huga that I can connect with on a level that makes everything feel just yummy. And so I'm curious if you're drawn to this general Danish term of coziness in your soul as you're working as well.
I do. I definitely think that being really intentional with like you're spot on, like being intentional with the items that you have in your space and not just, we're constantly bombarded with advertisements and telling, you know, society telling us that we need more stuff. And that's like the reason a lot of people aren't organized is because they're not intentional and they just continue to accumulate things when your environment is much more peaceful and calm when you're intentional and really choose the items that are in your space instead of just like letting things come in and pile up.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I asked some listeners before we met if they had any questions for you. And I had one question, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Yolanda asked, what advice do you have to help manage mental clutter? She says she's constantly having like 1,000 tabs open in her mind, which I feel like is super common in our culture.
I think time blocking is really big. So trying to be as intentional about what you're doing in that time. And if you have a list of 10 things that you need to do, setting a timer for, 20 minutes. In these 20 minutes, you're going to work on your marketing strategy or you're going to clean the kitchen or whatever it is, but really like blocking things out. And also, I'm a huge fan of lists. And so, I don't know, have you ever read the book Getting Things Done by David Allen?
I haven't, no.
It is wonderful.
Okay.
It's like a really good productivity book. And his whole system is around getting everything out of your head.
Mm,
And so, if things are just constantly scrambled around in your head, you're never able to focus on one thing. So if you even if it's like 100 different things that you have to do,
yeah,
just getting it out of your head and then prioritizing it between like, okay, what do I need to do today?
sure.
What do I need to do this week? What is a long-term project? And if it's, organizing your basement, if it's a big project, start with one bin in the basement. If they're larger projects, breaking it down into smaller action items, like what is the first step to complete it? So I think, yeah, time blocking and getting it out of your head, I think is the big, is the biggest thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's huge. I saw on your Instagram too, you'd posted recently a James Clear quote about solving problems at a system level. And I feel like that kind
Mhm.
of wraps it up really well, right? Like uh, putting those sorts of systems in place for you so that you don't have that clutter in your mind or in your space and just being able to tackle those things. That's something I'm innately good at, but I just have had this I need to do everything on my own syndrome for so long that the
Mhm.
lists were too long, and they were too intensive. And I also am a really big dreamer. And so it's not even just like regular daily task lists. It's like my lists are like, save the world. And then how to section that out into actionable tasks. And I literally do these things. It just got to a point where I had to start shedding, even if it's expectations on myself. And I think that's been a huge part of my process and my growth is, what's really important. And then let's get that stuff done. So I'm going to go back on this recording and write down that book because I'll definitely need it.
Yeah, it's great. And I think what you brought up have routines and structure too, like creating those daily habits that, like if you want to wake up and have a clear kitchen, set a timer for 15 minutes every night and clean your kitchen, do your dishes. Like, there's different things that you can set up each day to have your space be clear, attend to have our minds clear. But even though not all of my clients have an ADD or anxiety diagnosis, like we're all just so, like, the world is just insane.
Yeah.
So like, it's just so overwhelming. And I think like, if one of your projects you want to do is save the world, like it also is not everything needs to be done this year, like if there's something, if you can donate $50 to a charity this year, great, you're doing something. So, things can be longer term goals. And I think that a lot of times we get overwhelmed with, especially as business owners, there's so much that I want to do, but it's like, okay, what like realistically can I accomplish this year?
Yeah.
Or this week or today?
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. I was going to ask you if a family had the aim of better regulating their nervous system, what would be an easy first step for them to implement that would make the transition like to a clutter-free mind and life easy? Maybe you already kind of answered that, but I'm not sure if it's if there is more of a generalized one size fits all, like would it be like setting a 15-minute timer every day to get your darn dishes done? Or what would be an easy small thing that any family was looking to just kind of have better regulation would be able to implement?
Well, I think, yes, having routines where either you clean your kitchen for 15 minutes or a half hour before the kids go to bed, everybody cleans up for 15 minutes or whatever it is. But having everybody contribute to the systems and the routines also helps the kid be more invested in keeping your house clear of clutter. And so I think instituting any type of structure helps to reduce the stress, and it takes out the decision making. Like we all have to make so many decisions every day. So the less number of decisions you have to make, the less stressed we are. So if, the schedule is every night at 7 p.m., everybody spends 15 minutes picking up their room or the playroom or whatever it is. That's just like what happens every day. It's not like obviously at first it's a chore, but then it becomes a habit. And labeling things is also something that's super, super helpful, which seems really simple. But if you, label this is where the cereal goes in the pantry, then everyone knows one, where to find the cereal, and two, where to put it back. So like if it's just like the cereal goes in the pantry, then it just you lose one box of cereal and then whatever, there's a meltdown because the Cheerios can't be found, but it's really in the back of the cabinet, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my
So like
gosh.
labels are so helpful just because if you know where to find things, it saves time. And it also more people in the house can contribute to finding things and putting things away. Like I think a lot of times moms, control the kitchen and like where everything is, but then it creates a dependency on them to find where the scissors are. So I think any way you can have other members of your family contribute is super helpful.
I think that's the nugget right there. Literally out of so many insightful things, but it's like label your cereal. Where does the cereal go? I think that's huge. Honestly, it's like such a small thing, but it's so true. When you're rushing around in the morning before work or before school and to not have to be like, where did it go? Or where do I get it from? Or, whatever, whether it's cereal or where's the milk? I mean, how many times, how many rom-coms or even TV shows make fun of that? I can't find something in the fridge. And they're like, it's right behind the ketchup. Where's it at? I don't know. Use your eyes. But it's comical because it happens in every household. But it's like you brought up, it's because the mom tends to take on that responsibility of where things go. And so I love that idea of just empowering the rest of your family to be able to contribute to whole home organization. And then that's also contributing to less frustration for them, right? And less
Right.
panic when they're in a hurry because let's face it, we're all doing way too many things regardless of our situation. And so that's so cool. It's like the smallest, most impactful thing. Label your
Yeah.
cereal. Where does your cereal go? I love it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I try to keep my podcast episodes to under a half an hour just to provide the most value for the parents or non-parents who are listening on their commute or while they're doing their dishes, maybe their 15 minutes of dishes. So we've come to the part of the show where I ask my guest to share a story of when you realized that being responsible was something other than what you'd been raised to think it was. So this can be, but certainly doesn't have to relate to the rest of our conversation. So it doesn't have to necessarily tie into organization, but I'm just
Well,
curious.
I think my like this just being an entrepreneur in general. So I always thought being responsible was having 9 to 5, having a 401k, having health benefits that my employer pays for. And I did that for a long time and it just was not working for me. I needed the freedom and not that I recommend everyone quits their full-time job and starts a business, but I think that I still am a responsible worker. I'm still a responsible person. And, my needs are different from what some people like that structure. But I think that was a point of which I was like, okay, I don't need to have this typical 9 to 5 type job to be responsible human.
Oh, I love that. And that definitely hits home for me. I've been climbing the corporate ladder for the past decade plus. I'm a parent. And so financial, as long as all the other responsibilities have fallen on me for the past decade. Also, my daughter just turned 10 and I just craved entrepreneurship, but was always so scared to take that
Mhm.
leap because I have the responsibility of being her parent. And I had prayed so hard for some sort of solution to that because the job that I was in was just attacking my nervous system. I mean, I gained like 30 pounds over the past year and a half, which I'd never had problems with before. My skin, like half my hair is gray now. Like, I mean, it was really killing me. I just prayed. I was like, God, I mean, we got to find something. Something's got to give. And I would kind of give into my little entrepreneur pursuits on the side while I'm at work or during my job. And this past fall, I got news that I was getting laid off. My whole team got laid off. And they cut almost 40% of the whole company on that day.
Wow.
And my team, a tiny little team of 4, it was the only team that I know of that actually got extended. So we stayed until the end of the year and we got a small compensation package. And so it was God's answer prayer to me like, okay, here you go. You don't have to do that. And then you get to pursue entrepreneurship. Start your own brand, launch your podcast. Let's do this. And my nervous system is loving it. Like I am just my skin's clearing up. It's amazing. Like I'm losing weight and it's not because I'm like exercising more, eating better even. Like it literally is just because I'm not constantly being impacted by like working in a negative environment around negative people for a negative company that's doing harm to the planet like and then having that be on my consciousness all the time.
Mhm.
So I totally agree, and it doesn't feel responsible because I still to this day have all of my friends and family who care deeply about me asking me how my job search is going. And I've finally gotten to the point the past 2 weeks where I've mustered up enough strength to say it's not, and it's great. Like,
That's awesome.
I'm not applying to any more jobs, and I love it. And it's such a hard thing because everybody's like, "That's so irresponsible," and I'm like, "No, it's not. Something's gotta give, and this is where it's at." So, okay, well, thank you for your time. Your insights have been so valuable. I think that just thinking about relating decluttering your home to being able to let go of things and really understanding what's important to you, a soul level, right? And it's not all just you get rid of everything and you put everything in this place. Like, you definitely take a more spiritual approach to organizing, and you organize not only people's homes, but their businesses and their lives. And I just think that's so holistic and important and lovely. So, thank you so much for sharing this time with us. Any special announcements or ways that you want to share that listeners can contact you for your incredible soul level organization assistance?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great. Yeah, so my website is kmaorganizing.com and also KMA Organizing on Instagram. I do have a monthly newsletter. So if people, they can sign up for that on my website. And I live in Rhode Island. If people are in New England, I can do in-person organizing sessions, but I also offer virtual organizing as well. So it's more of, we meet on Zoom and talk through the organizational issues you're having, and then I'll write up a very detailed action plan for how to get the spaces organized that we talked about.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time, and I am so grateful that we're connected.
Same.